Last time we started talking about a very popular word in recovery called empathy, and we really sought to explain what it is and what it isn't. We're only capable of true empathy when we're in our ventral vagal state, in that place where we're safe, connected, where we can experience all our emotions, where our brain is working in its full capacity. We see things accurately. We're able to discern well, listen to our intuition, all of those things. When we're in our sympathetic vagal state or our dorsal vagal state, we can try to show empathy, but we tend to miss. And that's what I want to talk about today is empathy misses. And Brene Brown has coined this term, and it's the common ways that we respond to pain in somebody else, where we want to help, but we unintentionally disconnect instead of connecting. So to begin, there's kind of three reasons why we miss empathy, and then I'll get into the ways we miss empathy. So let's say that you're normally very good at empathy because you're normally in your ventral vagal state. You connect with people, you have the wisdom, maturity, and experience to be able to hear them, to understand them, to get them, to validate them, to be there for them, to support them without getting drawn in, overwhelmed by making it all about you, all of those things. So let's say that's your normal. But then one day you are in a stressed out situation, you are overwhelmed, so you go into your sympathetic vagal state. All of a sudden, you don't give empathy well. You don't connect with people, you're not fully present to people. And so you begin to do things that are just trying to fix them, patronize them, and you miss. So just be very aware that people can be very good at empathy, but on some days they can totally miss it because they have switched out of their ventral vagal state to a survival state. And we need to be aware of that in our own life. And for myself, it's usually when stress is building and I get to a point where the stress is causing me to have difficulty being present in the present, being present to other people. That then is when I start missing when it comes to empathy. There's a second way that people miss empathy, and that is when they have not healed enough to be able to connect and trust people so that they can trust others to meet their needs. So they continue to manipulate. They continue to basically use people to get what they want. And so manipulators, they work hard to try to appear empathetic, but they use empathy as a manipulative tool. So I'm going to be so considerate of you, thoughtful, warm, understanding, and just overflow with emotion for your pain in order to get you to do what I want, in order to suck you into my web. And so we call this performative empathy. It looks right, but it feels off. And so they might say, oh, I totally understand how you feel, but there's something in their body language, there's something in their tone of voice. It just feels scripted, it feels not genuine. And so they're saying the right words, but something doesn't fit. Something doesn't feel right. They're just not totally present to you. So this is where they weaponize empathy. But usually you can feel it. And understand that manipulators are in their sympathetic vagal state. They're in survival mode. The third is a narcissist. A narcissist has had so much of their own trauma where they've shut down empathy because it's don't care about anybody because if you do, it just adds to your pain. They've shut down their conscience. They've shut down emotions. They've shut down anything they perceive as weakness. So they're a very shut down person. So what begins to happen though for them is they don't experience empathy towards others. You're in pain, doesn't even phase on them. Now, if they're in pain, they expect you to have empathy to them, and they feed off of that. But they learn that if they can kind of play act empathy, performative empathy, it helps them as a narcissist to gain power. And so they will use empathy as a tool to regain control. So they might say to you, oh, I hear you, but you're overreacting. So they act like they're empathetic, but then they gaslight you. Or, oh, I get what you're saying, but you're wrong. Here's the truth. So empathy is a setup to then invalidate you and to impose their beliefs, their stuff onto you. And that's a common tactic. Then for some, there's a strategic perspective taking. So it's a cold cognitive empathy. So they accurately read you. So they get you, they see it, they're reading you correctly, but then they use that to manipulate you, to guilt trip you. So it's cognitive empathy, but there's no compassion with it. That's a common thing. And then often they will use their empathy in order to try to reverse things. So I get how that hurts you, but you're hurting me by not validating me. Or it really hurts me that you think that I somehow hurt you and contributed to your situation. And so it's a subtle form of gaslighting. I am acting empathetic, but I'm now going to use that and I'm going to become the victim. And now you're the offender. And that is another narcissistic thing. So let's look at some of the common things we can do to really miss empathy. So we switch out of our ventral vagal into our sympathetic or dorsal, and we still try to give empathy. So one is we use at least responses. So we try to make the situation seem less bad. So somebody's going through a real hard time with their kids, or they just lost their mom, and they go, well, at least you still have your health. At least you still have a good job. And so what they're trying to do is encourage the person, but they're minimizing their pain. They're not validating the pain they're going through. They're minimizing it. And so that looks like empathy in words, but it is so unempathetic and so hurtful. And many people do that thinking they're trying to cheer the other person up. And then the second one is they compare suffering. So you're in pain, but that's nothing compared to what my friend went through. And again, they think they're trying to encourage you, trying to cheer you up, trying to help you process your pain, but they're invalidating it. They're making pain a competition. So your pain's bad, yeah, but it's not as bad as my friend's. So suck it up and get over it and quit whining about it. That becomes so invalidating when they think they're being empathetic. Or they can go to, you think that's bad, well, here's my story. So now they're not comparing you to somebody else out there. They're comparing you to themselves. And so, oh, yeah, you went through that. Well, that reminds me of what I went through. And my story's even worse than your story. So you shouldn't feel as badly as you do. So another invalidating type of empathy, trying to move the spotlight away from your pain to look at my pain. So instead of me feeling sorry for you, you should feel sorry for me, and you should feel good about yourself and your situation. Now, just to clarify, I think that sharing your own story can be a powerful form of empathy, but it's got to be explained. So if somebody's sharing with me their pain and it connects to something that I've gone through, what I might say to them is, oh man, I relate. Now, I'm not doing that to then tell my story and make it that I went through worse than them to invalidate them or to draw the attention to me and take it off of them. What I then want to do is basically say, I identify with you. And when I went through this, and then put into words kind of some of the emotions and thoughts so that it's going to help the person begin to explore it, feel supported, feel that somebody gets me, somebody really understands that. That can be so helpful to a person who's struggling, it's a great form of empathy. But be very careful that you then don't try to make your story worse or try to get the attention on you, because that will invalidate them. Then a very common one is the fix-it response. So instead of actually hearing them and exploring them and letting them talk about it and validating their pain and really making sure you understand their pain and see it accurately, you just want to jump to solutions. You want to jump in and fix it. So you're fixing it before you've actually listened. And that, to me, is so common. You think you're trying to help, but you are making the other person feel like they don't matter, that their problem is an inconvenience to you that just needs to be fixed. Therefore, they're an inconvenience to you because you can't make time to sit with them in their pain and really try to understand it and to validate it and empathize with them. But that is very, very common. Another one that's common is that somebody's in deep pain and we validate by just getting philosophical. We try to teach, we try to explain, we try to educate them about why they're having their pain, or we try to educate them on a deeper philosophy that pain is important in life, pain serves a purpose, that everything happens for a reason. And so we think we're sitting with them in their pain. We think we're validating their pain, but man, we are invalidating. We're explaining stuff away. We are doing stuff that hurts them. And so people, when they're in pain, initially they need presence. They don't need philosophy. They need somebody just to be there with them without having to explain anything. And then another one is the person that just wants to jump to look on the bright side. Yeah, okay, I get you're in pain, but they move to encouragement too quickly and say, oh, you're going to grow from this. Someday you're going to look back on this and be so thankful for the lessons you learned from this. And so what we need to do to help people in pain is sit with them in the pain, let them struggle through the pain. And there's a lot of struggle, a lot of work, a lot of stuff they have to do. And eventually they get to the other side of that and they can see positive. So we sit with them in it. We encourage them to explore it. We encourage them to learn tools, to get help. And we're available to be supportive. But we don't try to bypass all of that pain and growth step and just go look on the bright side. Another one, sadly for some, is shame and judgment. So, oh yeah, you're in pain, but you know what? What did you expect to happen? You were acting the way you were. So I'm acting like I'm empathizing, but then I'm turning that to judgment. It's actually your fault that this is happening. And so now for a person to open up to you, they know that you're going to get fake empathy that's going to turn into judgment. So why should anybody become vulnerable to you? And then I think just the final one is that sympathetic vagal response where you're trying to show empathy, but you're not connecting. So it's like you're standing over the pain, but you're not fully connecting. And so it's, oh, you poor thing. It's very patronizing, very condescending. And so it actually creates distance instead of creating connection, because I'm talking down to you. I am not entering into your experience. So those are common empathy misses. If you're like me, you can spot, oh, I've done that, done that. And I hope it just helps us to be able to catch those times in our lives when we do miss with empathy. And we're able to explore, why did I miss empathy today? Oh, okay, I'm not in my ventral vagal state. Okay, I get that. What do I need to do here to get back to true empathy? That's the end of our talk. I just wanted to say that we've discovered that about half of the people that watch this haven't subscribed to our channel. And we would just love if you would take the time to subscribe, to like, to share this with others. That just helps with the algorithms of YouTube that then make this available to more people. So thank you again for your time. Have a great day.